Good morning.
Hello. Hello.
Nice
Good
to meet
afternoon.
you.
Good morning. Nice to
It's
meet you.
Manish. How did you become a leader?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think maybe I'll start by just sharing the ways in which I lead currently. And there's at least from the standpoint of my positional leadership, the named positions. So I'm the Associate Program Director for the Pediatric Residency Program, and I'm a newborn consultant at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on the maternal newborn child health team. And I direct a global health training program in Kenya that takes Kenyan and American trainees together. And the way in which I came to those roles, all of them, has been following where I see my service and the way I want to have impact. And in fact, I think I'd characterize myself as somewhat of a reluctant to take on positional leadership. And I almost feel like I can do more if I'm not the named positional leader, but instead leading from within. Though I've since come to learn that the positional leadership can really be leveraged to impact change, to get you at the table and get the issues that you care about at the table with those who can help pull levers for change.
That's a fascinating response, Manish, because for most of us, we think about the leadership position as that position of power that enables you to get your vision enacted. But you've raised a very important point, and that is that you can display your leadership credentials, whatever position that you hold, and that you can actually be a leader not within that sort of formal appointment. So that's a really important point for people who aren't in those positions. So how, when you don't have that role authority, do you think that you can be still a leader and be impactful?
I mean, that is something very special about pediatricians. And so everyone who's involved with IPA and APALA knows this. Um, it boils down to the things we do every day as non-positional leaders. When you're, behind the scenes as the consultant or attending pediatrician on your team and doing the work that has to get done to move the care forward, that's non-positional leadership. You're not standing in front of the family, but you're making sure the work gets done. When you have a vision for something that has to change in the world, it could be tiny, or very, very lofty. I think leaning into thinking about how to impact that change can happen before you have a named leadership position. And in fact, I think sometimes waiting to be a named leader just delays us getting what we want to get done. So in my experience, in my work here, really being in close communication and understanding with the positional leaders around you to know what they want. And you have to find the positional leaders who want what you want, even if they don't see what you want happening in the way you want to, because that common ground is critical. So if they can see that the vision you have has merit, even if they don't know how to get there, you've got an in. You've got a window. You've got an opportunity. And quite honestly, it can become quite fun for both because the positional leader, wants to encourage smart, bright people to achieve their goals because ultimately that extends the reach of the positional leader and the impact. So I'd say the concrete is understand what the positional leader wants, understand what the way in which you think change can be impacted, and enlist them in hearing you out and learning what they want, and then take your time and get it done.
Yeah, great response and answer there. Within that, you mentioned, really working with your leader. They want to develop you in that vision that you have because it helps them. Um, how do you remain authentic to your own sort of journey and your own leadership style in that context?
Mm-hmm. I find, there are a few little scripts that I have for myself. So when I've been very fortunate to have, fantastic chairs around me. But there is a script I use with my chairs frequently when I have an idea, or more than an idea, a proposal. And that is to say to them, I'm here to seek your advice on some ideas I have, and present something 3/4 baked. Like a take and bake pizza. You don't have to start from scratch, and allow them to move the toppings around. And if you're missing some topping altogether, it's a great time to learn that. But most of the time, it's moving the toppings around. If you show up with just the bread, you're going to get too much information. And then you end up taking their vision rather than your vision. And so I think of it as, when are we 3/4 baked? Because the positional leader needs something 3/4 baked. And then they're going to allow me to lead in the way I want to lead. And I think that's helpful for delegation of power in general too. Now that I have a named leadership position, I really appreciate when I get the 3/4 baked, and I try and identify, I'm seeing you're kind of 3/4 baked here. Let's talk about the final touches on this thing. Or I will say, I think we're about 1/4 baked here. I'm going to give you some input to go consider and talk to some other people. Let's meet again when you're at 3/4 baked. And so these are these little silly scripts I have in my head that help me to interface with the leaders who I think want to believe in the people they oversee, but trying to make it easy for them to believe in my own style.
Fascinating and probably very helpful to others. Manish, may I ask you, when your followers or approach you, what sort of traits or leadership traits do you like to see in them? And what leadership traits do you think that you espouse yourself?
I love that. I'm thinking about the people around me who I just really admire, who are going to be better leaders than me as they evolve. And I think there are a few similar characteristics. I think one is they're really connected to the purpose that they have. It's very clear what moves them and what drives them. And they also have a way of rolling up their sleeves and getting messy in the work, without getting caught up in the messiness. It's almost a bit of a grit, a mix of grit, perseverance, determination, and yet a real clear connection to the why and what, while maintaining a flexibility in the how. Like they know they want to take their program from A to B, and they are willing to get in the weeds and figure out how to make any particular course of action happen. But they're flexible enough to see that there are multiple ways to get there, and allow people to join them in that movement. So they're people that you just notice other people are around and in their efforts. And to me, that's what I try and do. There is I tell my trainees that my ultimate goal in my service to them is to be useful. So, not necessarily, sometimes that's being supportive, sometimes that's being a sponsor, sometimes that's being compassionate, more than those other traits. All of those traits matter. But in the end, I want to be of use. And the people who I want to be around are ones who want to be of use. And that quality matters a lot.
And final question, Manish, do you think the culture of leadership has changed over time? And if so, what would your advice be to someone entering leadership now, about
Mhm.
how they engage with leadership, perhaps different to what they may have witnessed for themselves, when they were developing their careers?
That's a super interesting question, actually. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. Is, the last 3 to 5 years, the world has changed. And actually, in the last decade, organizational culture has changed so much. I mean, my observations are still evolving on this, Sarat, but I think one of the most profound things is the collaborative nature of leadership now. Collaboration is perhaps as important, if not more important, than determination. And so, the teams that seem to function the best have, and we look at, like, the leaders of the big companies now, whatever Facebook's called now, and Tesla and all these other, Amazon, the big meta corporations out there. And there are very much figurehead leaders. And I don't know what the underneath the figurehead leaders things look like, but in the organizations I'm involved with, the turnover in leadership right now is moving to one of great lateral collaboration. It's almost like flattening the leadership, escalator. And I think that's a good thing. I think, um, gone are the days where one person can be good. No one ever could, but where we have the expectation that one person, is experienced at everything. It's not about being good or not. It's just about being experienced. So, can one person really be experienced in, running a research center, running a very complex multi-network clinical operation, being involved with policy setting, running an advocacy agenda, and, seeing the future of medical education? No, no one person can have that kind of experience to really harness the best for each of those, hypothetical areas of focus. So being able to have leaders share, you know, at a much higher level their expertise, I think is hopefully where I think leadership is going. And so as young leaders develop, their ability to harness and collaborate and work in teams and understand different members' strengths so that you can build a really complementary team is, I think, more valuable than one person thinking they have to learn about all those things and have experience in all those areas.
Anish, I'm sure that people who click onto this would have found that interview very valuable. Thanks very much for your time, and all the very best to you. I hope we catch up again soon. Cheerio.
Sounds great. Okay.
Bye.
Take care.